G'day and welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute, joined today by Griffin Gaming, Fastcart, and my partner in crime, Algared. How you all doing? I feel like I
Doing
need
good.
I feel like I need the trumpet for Solcitizen. You know, the I'm a soul man.
No, we need a hype man, Flavor Flav.
Yes.
Yeah, boy.
So I've been hanging out with some of the Solcitizens the last couple of I don't know, last week off and on, and we're just having a chat, and a couple of ideas floated out of there, so we thought we'd have a chat and do a show. But we wanted to do a show about hardware over shipware. Something Algared probably needs to learn, I was thinking. So I pulled him in for that one, and he's on the rocks today because he's got 3 shows in a day. I have not had 3 shows in a day for a long time, but he's gonna know. I don't think you've ever had 3 shows to record in a day, Algared. So you're gonna, after today, you know how it feels. You've definitely come close. But yeah, so Griffin and Fastcart. Yeah, so I don't know who wants to kick it off. Who wants to kick the ball rolling? Why should we? All right, we're gonna throw Griff under the bus. All right, cool. Griff, Fastcart point to Griff.
So you guys already started the conversation, so let you and Fastcart start it out.
Yeah.
I'll jump in on the back end.
All right then. So Fastcart. So why should we recommend people pick up hardware over ships? Just the basics, really.
Because STAR-Citizen is a really intense game, resource-intensive game, and having great hardware really helps you with your not immersion with the game, but just replayability and feeling good about why you play the game. So yes, I mean you may decide like you get an expensive ship, but maybe having a graphics card that can really play the game. You don't want to have an expensive ship and you're still running like a 1080 or maybe even a 2080 or something like that. Or a card that's a couple of generations old. So yeah.
Yeah, and you're essentially playing a game that is really to push the hardware limits. So you kind of need a PC that can push the game's limit, in my book as well. Yeah, Griff, what about you?
And also having good hardware on a PC not only help you play STAR-Citizen, it helps you play other games too. So it had the additional benefit.
Yeah, I think you got a much bigger benefit to than just STAR-Citizen. No, I totally agree on that. Griff, what about you? What do you think is a major contributor to that, to why someone should really focus on hardware before the software?
Yeah, it's a difficult proposition because it's so subjective to what people are doing with their computers. My computer, I'm a multitasker. So my system is built out for doing not only games, but also video production, where someone who may be just doing exclusively gaming may have different demands. So for example, cores mean something to me for multitasking, but currently in STAR-Citizen, cores aren't a big deal. But later we know that they will be. To your point, I think that hardware, and correct me if I'm wrong, because most of us have been around for a while.
Yeah.
When this game was first proposed, it was proposed that you're going to need to have a good rig, a gaming rig, a powerful rig to play the game. But over the years, CIG has tried to accommodate what we would consider a moderate rig, a decent rig. You can't be way behind, like Fastcart said. You could still play it with a 1070 or a 1080, but there will be some things that you won't be able to take advantage of, and particularly graphics and performance. So it's kind of like how we had to graduate from hard drives to SSDs. There is somewhat a chasing of technology, but you have to be careful. Because and I know you're going to talk about this a little bit later, Execute, you can also go broke chasing technology.
You can go broke buying chips too.
Yeah, I mean, the prices become artificial prices. I know, for example, when I upgraded to the 2080, I have a 2080 Super, and within a few months of that, that's when the big craze happened with Bitcoin. And that card that I paid $750 for shot up to $1,600 and $1,800 for the same card. And so for some people, they felt, because they didn't catch it right before that, they still felt compelled to spend that type of money because they wanted to get the performance. But the reality is the card wasn't worth that amount of money. So you have to really, one of the things I tell people to do is make that list, that wish list on every gaming store you go to, and just watch and wait. Sales come up, pick up pieces here and there. You know, it takes a lot to say I'm going to buy everything at one time. Maybe you're not always going to get the best value. Maybe if it's dependent upon the holidays or beginning of the year, you can kind of time it. For some people who maybe like my next rig, I've always built my own rigs. This next time I've told myself that I'm going to invest in a company that will do it. Normally, I think when I did this last rig, doing it myself, I saved myself about $600 to $700 without the labor and stuff. For some people, that'll be the route for them to go. But for other people, if you're going to build your own rig, do your homework. That's all I can tell you about it. Do your homework. But you do need to have a good rig, a decent rig, if not a good rig, if you can afford it to play the game.
Going to be honest with you, when I build my own, they turn out better than the shops do because I know what I'm doing. But yeah,
what you doing?
Yeah, Fastcart, you look like you wanted to say something.
I'm going to say the holidays are coming. Griffin mentioned up there. We got Black Friday coming in like 3 weeks now, so that'll be the perfect time to look at your website to check if anything is on sale or what have you.
I don't know if you're aware though. There's this little event called Intergalactic Aerospace Expo that they put on around about the same time. It's really annoying. Yeah, it's just right at that inconvenient time.
And the other thing with the Black Friday is that we don't really go bonkers for that in Australia.
We do have it,
something that's really,
but not to the same extent.
No, you don't have Stampede?
No,
that's good. That's good.
You know, so
don't you just like put like a bulldozer attachment on the front of your fast cart, and just that's what I would do. I use what I go
loud and just go. No.
But I think one of the I'm going to give my 2 cents as to why you should look at hardware over ships, and that is because you've got audio, you've got video, and you want to take advantage of seeing all that glorious video and all that glorious sound. And if you've got a really basic computer, you're not going to get the benefit of that. And it goes back to the old Wing Commander days, and it's something you're probably saying, how harps on about this, but in Wing Commander, you used to get yourself a good video card so you could see the videos that was in the movies. You got yourself a good sound card so you could actually appreciate the music, which was so far above 8-bit music. And it's going to be no different for this, in my opinion. So yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's change gears a little bit, because that's something Fastcart did touch on before the show. He talked about peripherals and software, and we know that CIG has looked at hardware in the past. We know that the software like Voice Attack and things like that, and they've talked about putting their own stuff in eventually. But for me, there are peripherals that you can look at. We know that they're looking to work with Toby. I've heard rumors of something like the FOIP working with Toby. And also, I think I'm a bit of an audio enthusiast. And knowing that this engine is built on the Crytek engine, and I play another game called Hunt Showdown, and if you have a good pair of headphones, the footsteps that you can hear give you a really big edge over other people, to the point that they can't hear you. Now, one of the things I did point out when I was on the live stream was I was on I got a pair of wireless headphones just so I can walk around the house and listen and talk to people on Discord, because it allowed me to do certain activities. And they sounded amazing during the panel because they had this really deep bass when they were playing the audio panel, and I was just like, wow, like this is. And again, it's going to be the same in STAR-Citizen. We're going to have these soundscapes, and we've got the orchestral music. I always forget the guy's name. All that type of thing. So headphones are a big one for me. What's a big one for you, Fastcart? I've probably stolen all of them now, but Fastcart, what's a big peripheral piece of software that you would recommend to people?
Peripheral or software, I would recommend Voice Attack, because I have cerebral palsy, so I play with one hand. Don't ask what I'm doing with the other hand, but anyway.
I just assume you're using a joystick.
Yeah, so I'm so grateful that Solcitizen and Mutual got me a BKB joystick for my birthday 3 weeks ago, so I appreciate that. So I've been rocking that for a bit. But Voice Attack, because it lets you control speed, lets you control different aspects of your ship, and you don't have to take your hand off the joystick. You just use your voice. The only downside of that is that it's great if you're solo, but you're playing in a group, you have to, let people know, or perhaps mute yourself when you want to do stuff. But if you're solo, and it's great. So yeah, voice chat. One thing other people seem to use is Game Glass. We haven't mentioned that. So that's if you have an extra a phone or old phone or tablet that you don't no longer use, you can bring up Game Glass on it and control your ship that way.
What's the other? There's Game Glass. There's another one as well. I can't remember the other. Game Glass and Game Touch, I think, is the other one. Game Touch is the other one as well. So there's a couple of them. Griffin, what about you? Is there one that you think that you would recommend to other people? I know me and Fastcart are probably stolen one.
No, I mean, I think the problem is playing Star Citizen is a graduated kind of thing, right? You know, when we first come in, it's mouse and keyboard, right? And the deeper you go, the deeper the rabbit hole gets. And so, not that you can't play Star Citizen with mouse and keyboard, you can do it, you can have an enjoyable experience. There will be players that will try to tell you that you have to have such and such to play the game. And I think that's subjective. I think it's a matter of what you want to do in the game. If I were to say what the basics are, I would definitely say, obviously, mouse and keyboard. I would probably move to joystick. And when you get to joystick, it gets, again, so subjective.
Right.
16,000s are the favorite of every start person who wants to get out there and learn how to do it. And they work for people. People have used them for a couple of years, but usually when people get more serious, they step up to the next level. And this is where it starts to become pricey. Those are the only necessity things I look at, because after that, anything else is like icing on the cake for me. Toby is icing on the cake. Game Glass is icing on the cake. A keypad is icing on the cake. Because again, you can get really deep. I can't tell you how much stuff I have surrounding me right now that I never thought I would have. I have a iPad mini for Game Class. I've got a keypad here. I've got Stream Decks with multiple buttons on them. I have voice attack. I have two VKBs, and I've got a keyboard. You know, do I need all that to play the game? No.
Yeah.
It does help with the experience, but I don't want people to feel like I have to buy all this stuff. I think you just kind of graduate into it to the level that you want to go. And for some people, I know some people, I've seen them flying, and I said, dude, you flew in really good. Are you using this joystick? No, that was mouse and keyboard. Like, whoa, you know.
We are content creators, though, so we do have a little...
We're all over.
Yeah, we have, like, I'm sitting here under lights and all that, and I'm sure you guys are no different. But for me, I actually don't consider a joystick essential. I've flown with mouse and keyboard since the beginning, and
there you go.
That comment you made about, no, it was with mouse and keyboard, I hear that all the time.
There you go.
But, Algared, would you
I do have a quick question, if I may. How many buttons do you recommend on your mouse?
Well, my mouse has got 5 on it, or 6 if you count the roller wheel as well. But like much like a keyboard is something that you touch, a mouse is as well. I find that they are very personal. I built computers for people for a lot of years, and they're the things I try and let them pick themselves because they've got to touch them, and it's a personal thing. The other one I would have put in there, and I know Algared's got a very good monitor, is monitors. I think they're a very important one. So yeah,
that's so simple, but it didn't occur to me because I'm looking at it right now. You should take it for granted, but yet I have a 27-inch monitor. It's 2K, not 4K, and you know I have 2 of them actually. And you know some people go talk about immersion, they go 60-inch curved and what have you. So yeah, that's another personal decision people have to make.
And I'm glad you said that, Execute, that it is personal, because people will try to sell you on what works for them.
Yeah.
And the best thing to do is to do what Execute and Algared are doing, is to hear varying opinions, check out reviews. He's using a 6 button because I'm an MMO person. I've got this mouse I have here has 12 on the side and about 7 on the
That's what I was asking.
You know, it varies upon what people are comfortable. Because for some people, that's too much.
Can you call your mom?
For some
Can you call your mom on that thing? Like it's got that many buttons?
I know, but I'm saying for some people that's too much. You know what I mean? And for other people, it's what they need. So I think I appreciate what you guys are doing by letting people know that there's a lot of variety out there. But just like how you guys do the customizing people's fleets, you're also helping people understand they have to customize their rig for what works for them. You know?
Yeah. Like I'm a mouse and keyboard person myself. I do have a HOTAS, you know, stick and HOTAS I am wanting to do. But what I thought of when you're raising that whole joystick thing is you really want to have or consider getting brackets for them so they're at the right height.
Right.
So I'm not using mine at the moment because when they're up, they're just too high.
Too
so
high.
you end up with major wrist strain. You don't want that. So when you're looking at those peripherals, you've also got to look at posture and what's going to work for you in terms of gameplay and comfort and all the rest of it. And
especially when you're doing content creation, like I sit in this thing like 6 hours a day. Like I went out of my way to get a really good chair. So,
good chair, absolutely.
And if you're playing the game as long as people often play games, then again, you really do want a good chair. So that's another peripheral, I suppose, or essential thing you want. And yet, it's something we never talk about.
It's true.
It really is.
Something I think we should do is probably tell people, because I mean, if this is going to be an introduction show, what is a HOTAS? What is a HOTAS? MKB, mouse and keyboard. So maybe we can get into different distinction of how people can play Star Citizen. Like, for instance, like HOTAS means hands on throttle or stick. You have a throttle and a stick. HOTAS is hands on stick and stick. And there are a couple of others too, but I don't call them at the moment.
You know, I was going to say this too, Execute. Some elements of the things that we buy are, they help with gameplay, but there are also some things that are about immersion. Like I said, you could have someone who could use a mouse and keyboard and they thoroughly can handle the game, they can play the game well. But then you may have someone, for example, who's into flight simulation, right? Who also plays Microsoft Flight Simulator, and they want the feel of actually flying a plane. So they're using a HOTAS. The person who, like Fastcart, who says some type of physical issue where they need to be able to speak and use their voice. There's so much customization that could what happen. So we know, well, I guess what I don't want people to think is if you hear somebody say, I've got, what's the not VKBs, what's the other joysticks? The
more expensive one, the
Virpils. Yeah, that's like $1,000 to drop. You know what I mean? And if somebody's swearing by Virpils, the other ones, you got to get Virpils. But if you're not playing at that level, with that level of dedication toward flight simming or anything else, you may be disappointed when you pay $1,000 for something that maybe you could have paid $200 for or $500 for.
Yeah.
I think you kind of answered that yourself when you said, you know, start small and work your way up. So if you've never had a joystick before, get a cheaper one. Make sure it's something that you can enjoy because it's got a completely different muscle memory. And for me, I play a lot of first-person shooters, and so my brain is always like, I don't want to have to move the sticks out of the way to then start doing stuff on foot. I can just transmit seamlessly while they're spending 30 seconds before they get out of the ship as it explodes. And I'm sure that's going to be a thing at some point. There are going to be people that are just really good at flying, and that's all they do in this game.
I'll be honest with you. I bought these VKBs last year. I've been doing mouse and keyboard all this time. I did do a little bit of HOTAS about 3 years ago. I went back to mouse and keyboard. I only bought these for immersion. It wasn't because I couldn't do stuff on mouse and keyboard. You know what I mean? It was literally just because I felt like, let me get a little bit more immersive in my flight stuff. Now, and I'm not one of those people that's like the ace pilot, you know, dogfighting. I'm one of those people that does support. I'm the reclaimer guy. I'm the freaking, you know, salvage guy. I'm the guy that if you need something dropped off in a C2, that's me. So the demand of needing all of the high-tech stuff for quote unquote combat is not in my agenda. But for other people, they may feel they need that, you know.
And I think it's also important to mention that Griffin, you're speaking specifically on space combat. Star Citizen and Fighting for the 2 also have FPS, so having a good keyboard can help people if people are more into that. Or maybe their thing is not the space combat, but more the ground combat. So having a great keyboard and mouse is good for that too.
Yep. And then you've also got the vehicles, so maybe you want to. The steering wheel and pedals.
There you go.
When I use my HOTAS, or when I first played around with it, I was doing it very similar to you. Not that I couldn't do stuff on mouse and keyboard, but it was that immersion stuff. And I was plugging in the configuring the controls, landing gear and all the rest of the switches. And it was great doing all that and being able to do that really quickly. So that was a bonus. It's something I do want to get into. Another thing I used to use when I was doing MMOs was I used to have an Astromo gamepad with the wheel and all the rest of it. And I sometimes think maybe I need to pull that out and plug it back in and give that another whirl.
Yep, I've got mine right here.
I brought one of
Yes.
those and I returned it the next day because I was just like, this is just a keyboard. I'll just use my keyboard. It's so different. So yeah, each to their own. I think that's a real takeaway. But yeah, so that's peripherals and software. One of the things I do want to go over, Algared, and you can tell people what this is what is this, Algared? Why is this important in Star Citizen Returns?
If you're looking to what do I need to play Star Citizen, the telemetry map that Star Citizen have on their dashboard is basically it. All these squares are basically is CIG saying this is what people have got. These are the systems and the layouts people have got. The two things to note are that little red dot way down the bottom on the bottom left. That is the absolute minimum requirement to play Star Citizen. The green dot is the recommended requirement to play Star Citizen. Now, I'm pretty certain that X's computer is way above the board.
I'm actually realizing it's further back than I thought. I'm just kind of clicking these boxes and going back. So I've got a 3080 Ti, and I've got a CPU literally a little bit less than this, but I've got mine very optimized because I know what I'm doing and taking care of it, so it runs better than most. So yeah, I'm right in the middle of this square, by the way. Yeah. The other thing I'd add is that these are the minimum and recommended specs from back in the day. I don't think they've updated this in a while, but it's just something we wanted to show you guys to.
But that is also showing for, like when I was looking at that, showing it for currently as is running for 3.21. So while it may not be showing the best stats to have, you can still kind of see what people have got and where they're going. And like on the current system, I'm a couple of squares up from recommended. And my computer, I'm running a 1080 Ti on my graphics card.
Even if this is slightly out of date, what this can do is it can show you where you sit. Right, so if you're going, oh shit, I need to upgrade my, or you come on here and you go, oh, I'm really far behind, so I probably should jump up a little bit just so I can get a bit more. And you don't want to aim all the way up to the top because that's obviously ridiculously expensive. But somewhere in the middle is not a terrible place to be. Fastcart, you were going to say, sorry?
Yeah. Yeah, but what I did is I looked at the telemetry and see what kind of FPS people are getting. If you want to shoot for a certain FPS, then you can see what configuration gives you that FPS, and then go from there if you want. But yes, Star Citizen does have a recommended and minimum specification page. They recommend. They recommend Sandy Bridge or later, or AMD Bulldozer or later. They recommend DS11 compatible graphics card with 4 gigabytes of RAM, at least 16 plus gigabytes of RAM.
I can already tell you that is out of date because we've now got DirectX 12. It's all changed, and they haven't optimized the game yet either. That's the other thing.
No.
But I do want to bring up one thing. They do recommend you have an SSD. We haven't talked about that yet. You can play with a mechanical drive. It just makes it unbearable in some cases. So you definitely want an SSD.
Griffin did hint at that.
I would say the mechanical drive is the absolute minimum requirement, and the recommended, almost you must have is that SSD. It just it's chalk and cheese. It really is a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
yeah. So that was just something else I wanted to hint at. If you want to kind of see where you sit, that's just on their main page. You can find that on the RSO website, and it's just a really good way to see where you compare to everyone else. Is there anything else that you guys want to add? I think for me, it just comes down to, it is a very personal thing, but one of the things me and Algared have learned doing the Fix My Fleets is we've had people come along that have literally spent thousands on ships, but we find out their PC is like Windows 95 or something like that, and so we'd often say, no more ships. Work on your PC, and Chris has even, actually Sandy said that to you directly, didn't she, Algared? She told him
she
to stop buying
ships. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah. So
Not upgrade my computer, but just stop. You don't need to buy any more ships. All you need is a starter pack, and that's what you know. And I think that's the message for everybody. All you need is a starter pack. You need a game, and if you want Squadron 42 VAT added in as well, all you need is one ship, and you can get everything else in game. If you're insane like us, buy more.
I'll throw in a quick story. Before this last update, I did this. This computer was updated 3 years ago. Pardon me. I was on a 1070, 16 gig of RAM. This was starting back in 2016, 2017, or something like that. By about 2018, 2018, I started feeling like things were getting a little laggy. So I went from, on a 1070, I went from 16 gig to 32 gig. Definite, almost doubling of frame rate. Definite performance change. It felt smooth like it did a couple of years earlier. Then in 2020, I did a new update from a 1070 to a 2080 with 64 gig of RAM. Here's the funny part of the story, because you touched on this earlier, Algared. When I had logged out before the update, I logged out on the reclaimer. I got in bed and went to sleep and forgot. So my parts had come in. I said, okay, I'm going to build the rig. I start working on the rig for a couple of days. I get it all set. I log back in, expecting to log in back at one of the stations, and forgot that I was on the reclaimer. When I woke up on the reclaimer and walked around on it, the reclaimer looked entirely different to me. And this is what you were saying earlier, Algared. We don't realize all the money that we've spent to support this thing has paid for all these cool things that you don't see on a low-end PC. I was seeing particle effects, scattered light, all this stuff all of a sudden. And I was like, whoa, you mean to tell me I've been missing this the last couple of years?
You were playing at high stats at that point, not playing at low stats.
But my previous card could not produce those graphics. So there was it was an eye opener, just like when I went from 16 to 32. Going to 64 isn't necessary. I would say if you can do it, do it. But 32 is adequate. But definitely my changing in GPU and CPU opened up a whole different visual world in the game that I wasn't seeing with a 1070 at 32 gig of RAM.
To that, hang on, Aaron. To that point, I did see this earlier today on the Reddit, and this was someone talking about the comparisons of how it looked at 2019 to now how it actually looks. Not 2019 to the last CitizenCon to now it looks for him in game. And there was a couple of things there. Is he probably doesn't have the graphics power that they've got, but also they talked about things this time around at this CitizenCon that weren't in yet, like the God Rays and stuff like that. So they have a different build that they're probably showing off to what we're seeing here, and they're able to turn certain things off and on. So I think eventually we'll get the one at the top, but right now you can tell, like, he's got gamma pretty high there, and there's a few other settings and stuff like that. I'll just go through these a few quick. Algared, you were going to say, sorry?
Yeah, I was going to say, which is related to what you're literally just saying, is when you look at the before and after is what they did with the characters.
Yeah,
the characters are chalk and cheese into what they were, and so, or if the better our graphics cards are, the better we're going to appreciate and see those fine details, and so you do want that, but is it necessary? No. But I think having those better hardware is going to enable us to appreciate all that good stuff.
I think I'll close it with this line: it will allow you to get the most out of the game. I think that kind of covers it in a nutshell. So,
I did want to bring up two things quickly. If you take our advice, there are numerous resources people can take advantage of on YouTube and what have you. Like Subliminal has configuration for VKB's joysticks, for instance. You don't, and the thing is, you can take his and use it exactly as he does it, or you can personalize it for your own use, and just make it your own. So if you have, Thrustmaster T1600, 16,000 joystick, there are resources for that to help you to help people get along. So make sure when you do get one of those peripherals, take advantage of the resources that are available for them.
Yeah, I think people just need to think before they buy another ship. Is my computer up to snuff to kind of play this next time? So, Griff, where can people find you and Fastcart on the interwebs?
Well, folks can find us on Solcitizens. It's SOL Citizens with an S on the end. We stream 3 times a week. Our main show is on Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time US. We do a Thursday show called Soul Talk that's hosted by Fastcart, which is a roundtable discussion that comes on at 9 p.m. Eastern Time US. And then I come on Saturdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Time US with Soul Voices, and that's a one-on-one where you get to come in and talk with me. Those are our 3 times that we're on, and you can find us on all social media under Soul, SOL, Citizens with an S.
And you guys were recently, I saw lots of photos of Fastcart. I was kind of jealous. At CitizenCon. He was with everyone. He was quite the popular.
He's always with everybody.
Yeah. All right, then. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope it was informative, because I just thought it was just something that I wanted to talk about, because I've seen it time and time again, and it was just something I wanted to kind of, going into AIE, instead of buying a ship, should I be buying something else instead? And Griffin kind of brought that kind of home a bit for me as well, is it's not just Star Citizen you can play, it's other games. And I think that's really important.
And I think the reason it's important to consider that now is because we are reaching that end line. You know, the light is at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
In previous years, it was, I'll wait until the game's ready before I update.
So that's that optimization.
So
it's that optimization, because it is going to come down a bit now, because we're getting to that last part. So if you're playing it pretty well now, it's not run out and buy more stuff. It's probably, because where mine is now, I'm like, it's pretty good. So it'll get better.
And before we forget, Vulcan is about to come online too, so that may make things easier for people who do have low end specs to enjoy the game more.
Yep, we've seen the infancy of that in this current patch that's dropping. So you're absolutely correct in that. And then they're going to turn it up a bit more with the ray tracing in the next patch after that. So we'll see. All right, so I'd like to hear from you guys in the comments below. You know, are you considering a hardware upgrade for the game? Is your computer good enough? Is this good advice? Because I think it is good advice. Maybe putting hardware before ships and essentially a virtual digital item. I think that is kind of, because it's got a broader stroke. But let us know your thoughts. Griffin, is there anything you'd like to hear from people in the comments below?
No, I mean, hopefully what we shared was informative and helpful to folk. Again, and I know you did touch on this a little bit earlier, Execute, be careful of the industry. The prices are not always what we think they should be. Sometimes there is a FOMO feeling about buying the latest card. Pay attention to when there are industry announcements. If AMD or if NVIDIA are saying they've got a new card coming out, maybe you'll decide not to buy the 5090, but maybe it'll be the 4090 Ti because it's more affordable for you. But there's always going to be another one. That's all we can tell you. So buy what you can afford. Try to find that happy medium between what's going to give you the performance you want and at the same time not break your bank at the same time. Because on an average, every 4 years for me, 4 years is it. I'm upgrading every 4 years. So in computers now, what used to cost $700, $800 for rigs now is $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. So it's an investment.
COVID really did put those prices up, didn't it? And that was something we did mention before the show, and we probably should have brought that up as well. I think the other one for me is new tech coming online. Like I've been seeing screenshots of the new AMD frame generators, and there are people in game now with frames of 550 frames in Star Citizen, which just blows my mind.
This is crazy.
blows my mind.
Algared, is there anything you'd like to hear from people below in the comments?
What I'd like to know is, if you are considering updating your computer or your hardware, when are you considering doing it? Are you considering it now? Are you considering it after Squadron 42 comes out? Are you considering it even after that, leaving it a little longer? I know I've been always saying I would update my computer when Squadron 42 came out, but I will also probably wait a little bit myself until I see where the optimization drops, because that's going to help determine where things go, and that's also going to help as I'm looking at updating. Do I go outlier level? Do I go to the run-of-the-mill level? Do I go a little above that? But they're the types of considerations I'm looking at. What are you considering?
Fastcart, the final word. What would you like to hear from people in the comments below, mate?
I would stole a little bit of my question, but I was just wondering if people prefer the latest and greatest, or do you prefer like when like something like a motherboard or a platform, like a Sandy Bridge, that's an older example. Do you prefer something more stable? Do you want the latest and greatest, or do you prefer something more stable? I went with something more stable for my last PC because I wanted something like had the firmware, make sure it had the least incompatibility issues, but the PC before that, I went latest and greatest, and I paid for it. So yeah, I was just curious about how people feel about that.
Yeah, probably not going beyond your means as a part of that too. So yeah, I'd be interested to know. Yeah, it is a very personal thing. So yeah, all right. With that, then he's been Algared, he's been Fastcart, he's been Griffin Gaming, and I've been Execute. I did it the wrong way again. It's fine. And we'll catch you next time. Say goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Well trained.